What's going on, team? Welcome along to another Super Rugby preview show here on the Crib, your best place for Super Rugby predictions and everything to do with rugby and gaming. We are bringing you the round 7 preview of Super Rugby this weekend. We have 6 matches to go through. We've got a few teams on the bye. We'll cover them in a second. But first things first, let's introduce our special guest for this week's video, and welcoming back a couple of times now. You're almost becoming a regular, but it is Shane, our local resident Australian. Welcome back to the show.
G'day to you, Steve. How you doing?
Can't get more Australian than that. I'm doing fine. Very, very well, in fact. Let's get into the show. We have a few games to look at, and we'll dig through them, see how we get on with our picks, and hopefully we can have another good weekend of tipping this weekend as well. So, of course, round 7, we have the 6 games, which means you've got 3 teams on the bye. So that means there's going to be no Brumbies, thank goodness, because I could kick them up the arse. No Lions, and sadly, no Highlanders, which I think this is a really, 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 really bad time for the Highlanders to have that bye after they just lost narrowly to the Hurricanes a couple of weeks ago. And then they, of course, didn't play that game against the Crusaders. And then they had that terrible loss to the Blues. Really bad time. That's a lot for them to sweat on. But we're not talking about them. Poor old Highlanders, they're out of the action. What we are talking about, though, before we get into the games, are, of course, the yellow cards. My favourite part of the weekend. And I've got good news, Shane. Now, this is going to give you a hint. We have surpassed our current state in 2018, which I'll give you an even bigger hint. 2018 at this stage, after round 6, we were sitting on 27. We have passed that this year now. What are we on?
28.
Oh, that's very close. Very, very close. You're one away. We are sitting on 29 yellow cards so far this season. And of course, the one red card that the Highlanders suffered way back in round number 1. It's easy to forget that even happened now. But a wee while ago, that one. But yeah, 29. So we've passed last year, which we were trailing 1 or 2 cards behind over the last few weeks. This one was a big round 6. We had a lot of cards. So we've pushed our way forward. And hopefully we'll smash into that record of last season as well. Before we get into it, though, we've got to have a look at SuperBru, Shane. I know you're not a big SuperBru player, but we're going to quiz you on your picks anyway. So we do have to give it a big well done, a big thumbs up to the top 3, which are, of course, Jack at number 1, still doing very, very well. Nate has jumped up a spot, and he sits now in 2nd. He's overtaken 3 Crowns 1, who has plummeted down to just 3rd, so he's doing all right anyway. My pick's going good. I'm happy. I'm sitting mid-teens, so 16th position, down a couple of freaks out there picked the Blues. Who knew that was possible? They popped ahead of me. Yeah, it's stinky Blues. So I'm still sitting there. I'm happy with that. I'm really happy with that, and even more so when I scroll down and I see the driving wheels down at 36, and I can poke fun at him still. Brett's doing all right. He's recovering up very nicely into the mid-20s now as well, Brett, so hopefully we'll have him back on the show very, very soon. And one man I did want to give a special mention to, not the yellow cap winner, which was Smarty Highlanders fan. Well done to you to get the yellow cap, sir, this week. But another man who was very close, half a point away from the yellow cap, was Ryan, who he had a couple of rounds to go on the preview. Had a really good round. Nailed that Blues result perfectly. And overall had a really, really good round. Unfortunately for him, it only put him up 5 spots, and he's down in the mid-60s. So not great for him, though, but still. Good round, though, from someone on the show, so that always means we might know what we're talking about. But, Shane, how's your picks going? You having any luck with your predictions this season?
I definitely, sorry to say, Steve, I did get the Blues last week. And, of course, being a Reds fan, I was absolutely delighted to see my guys monster the Brumbies. Not bad for a koala logo. So we've been a bit inconsistent with South African games as well. So I would say that I probably had my best week last week.
Yep, a couple of those 50-50s and go your way. I mean, what were the Blues, like 7% of people on SuperBru picking that? And I think the Reds were pretty much a 50-50 game as well. So it can go for you or go against you. You get a couple of those right, and bang, you have a really, really good round. And unfortunately, that wasn't my show this week. But unless we'll go on, and we'll have a good one this week instead. Let's get into the games, though. It all kicks off with the Hurricanes versus the Crusaders. A mouth-watering match in prospect. And how about this for a stat for you? Historically, results between these two sides are just phenomenal. I don't know if you'll believe this, but I found this quite surprising. Last 10 matches they've played, 5 apiece. I thought the Crusaders would have dominated this. The home team has won every match since 2017 on. Does that affect your thoughts on how this match is going to go?
Well, it's the first thing to note is the All Blacks captain is back for the Crusaders. So they're going to have a bit more direction than what they did last week in their pathetic performance against the Waratahs, if I must say so. Royally, I say that. Look, the Crusaders will bounce back because they love a derby and they are going to go hard from minute 1 to minute 80. So, affecting my thoughts here is just, obviously the Hurricanes had a tough, gritty win against the Stormers. So, one side's coming off a win, the other side had a very poor performance and wants to come back and get a result. So I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued because I think that I think the Crusaders will want it more because they want to make amends for not even getting a bonus point last week. And I get a feeling that the last 5-6 weeks we've had the New Zealand game at 5:30 have been outstanding games, and this one's going to be no different. So I'm expecting the Crusaders to win this one because I think that they need it. They need to bounce back. I just like the way they play. They will maul. They will, they've got some great backs to finish off the works that the forwards do. So. The Hurricanes have a mobile forward pack. They have a great explosive back line. So it's you've got two contrasting styles of New Zealand rugby. What a great way to start the weekend.
And it's a big match too, because you look at the table when the Crusaders still sit top, obviously, but they are on equal points. Both the Crusaders and Hurricanes sit on 19 points. This is huge. A loss here for either of these two sides. We'll see one go to 23. You'd expect minimum 23, 24. Who knows what's going to happen? But overall, that's pretty big, and that lead could change things, for the later on in the season. You mentioned the teams. We do have a squad named for this one. A few changes to the side. One that really interests me. I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but one man by the name of Barrett, but it's not Bowden, it's Geordie. Pretty good last week at 12. They've switched him straight back out to the right wing. Sure, you bring him back Laumape, who has been phenomenal this season. You can't argue with that. And Proctor will stay at outside centre. But Geordie Barrett getting a bit of a shift around this back line. What have your thoughts been on when he's been in those outside backs positions?
I don't like seeing him play on the wing because his talent is wasted. Really, really wasted when you do that. 15, 12, 13, even 10. I'm not going to count backwards because that goes into the forwards. Look, very talented young fella. Very talented young fella. But don't put him out on the wing where he won't get as much ball. And it was proven a few weeks ago. So I don't know what you're thinking there, the Hurricanes coach, but I'm sure that you can make a last-minute tactical change, surely. Put Laumape on the wing, get the boy into a better position than that.
That's true. That's not a bad point. Laumape probably would be more effective on the wing, I do think, than Barrett would be. And that combination with the brothers as well in 10-12, it was pretty effective. The Crusaders made a number of changes as well. Most notably, you've talked about Kieran Reid making his first start of Super Rugby back at number 8. Mo'unga's back, as you'd expect he would be. It's a settled back line with a bridge, Crotty, Goodhue, Enor, Havili. That's pretty much stock standard. It's a pretty settled-looking side from last week. Only a couple real changes to them. But the last thing I want to ask you about this, are the Crusaders ever going to play that badly again this season?
Well, I think they learned very quickly last week. That was awful. The Tars were probably equally as awful in a scrappy game. It was lucky that the rain didn't create mud on the field. It was like the old days of the SCG did. Um, Otherwise, we would have had a real scrap fight. So, look, the Crusaders, they're superstars. And everyone has a bad day. They'll want to make up for it a lot more, I feel, and they will get the goods. And I'm going by about 3 points.
Crusaders by 3. Very similar to my pick. I'm going Crusaders by the 5. Still think it's going to be a close game. I just hope, weather's coming into the season now. It's good to see that dry rugby style. It's two teams like that have such a talented pack, such talented backs. You hope there's going to be a nice night for running rugby as well. So we both agreed early on. The Crusaders are our team to start off the weekend. We move back over to your side of the ditch. The Waratahs are up against the Sunwolves. And man, if you live in New South Wales, how great would it be? The best team in Super Rugby, beating the two-time defending champions. How amazing are the Waratahs? That's all I've read over this week, is how great they are. The blue wall of defence. I mean, what a crock of shit. They played terrible. And if they played the Crusaders a month from now or a month ago, it would have been tragic. It would have been a walloping. I think they could have played. They played the Sunwolves like that. How they played against the Crusaders, they're going to lose. And you've talked about the Crusaders, how bad they were, but the Waratahs, it's terrible, and it's hard to see that any side is really going to struggle against a team playing like that.
The Waratahs made a lot of basic errors as well, which equated to the game being terrible, as well as the Crusaders' performance. It was not a very exciting game of rugby to watch. And look, this is the deal for the Waratahs. You better come out wanting to play attacking rugby on Friday night. I know the people in Newcastle are very grateful because we've got the stadium's issues in Sydney. So there'll no doubt be a big crowd there to cheer on the Tars. So I believe, I'm not sure, I haven't seen the lineup for the Waratahs, but I believe that they wanted to put Beale back to fullback, give Folau and Foley a bit of a rest, and I think they also wanted to rest Rob Simmons. So a few Tars might be out of this game, so it's a chance for some second-tier Tars to come up and play this one. And, yeah, mate, they got to improve as well. As you mentioned, if it was 3 or 4 weeks earlier, the Crusaders would have smoked them like a tuna or a bit of salmon. I mean, it was just... It wasn't very nice to watch. Yes, they did beat the Crusaders. Yes, they did defend very well until, the last second of the game where they just decided to say the results in the bag. But can't do that against the Sunwolves, because here's a side just been told that they've got the axe from Super Rugby. Still went out with a positive attitude against the Lions, played some good rugby, didn't get a win, but they played some really good rugby, as they have this year, and they nearly beat the Waratahs in Japan. So, on the balance, I would say the Tars by 5, but, question marks and whether I'm truly convinced after that last week's performance.
You're spot on, too. 31-30. That was round 2, if I'm not mistaken, from memory. That was a close one. You got to say, that was the game where they should have got that penalty, because someone, whoever it was, got that suspension after the match as well for that indiscretion right at the very end. So
Tolu Latu
was too. So there you go. I mean, that would have changed this match quite considerably. You're right, though. We can't poo-hoo the Waratahs too much, I guess, because they did enough to get that victory. But I just think they overdo it a little bit. Yes, they played well enough to win, but they have to look at it and say, really, we played like crap as well. They have named their lineup, however. It's only just come out just before we started recording this. All the guys you've mentioned are all playing, so they don't give two tosses about their opinions on who they think are going to rest. Folau's at fullback. Beale's still at 12. Carmichael Hunt's coming to start at 13. Simmons is still starting. He's in the second row of Hannigan now, so Hannigan's moved back from the back row to the second row, and they've got Swinton on the blind side, Hooper and Wells starting at number 8. So a bit of a change there in the second row on the back row. But Carmichael Hunt, very aggressive when he come off the bench, I think, against Crusaders. He actually made an impact, and I'm not his biggest fan, so I don't say that too lightly. But he talked about that result last time when they met. At one point in it, the Sunwolves have got, I think, a huge amount to prove, just because they've only got a season and a half to go-ish in Super Rugby. And, I mean, they can make some statements here. They can really make some statements. And they've looked all right on the road. And they're going, obviously, to play the Waratahs on the road. They looked all right in New Zealand. You can't take that away from them. They looked really impressive, smashing the Chiefs. I mean, that looks a bit more impressive now. But I know what you're going to say about this, and I'm probably going to agree with you 100%. Would there be anything more impressive or more enjoyable to watch than seeing a Sunwolves upset this weekend?
Well, I'm a Queenslander, so it would be quite a
fantastic,
quite a fantastic thing to watch. But equally, as this is a World Cup year, and I'm not being biased here, I want to see all Australian sides do well, and people start to put up their hand to say, I want to be a Wallaby. You don't hear that as often as you'd like, but I'm sure the sentiment there, I want to see 23 players for the Waratahs stand up, and I want to see some of them really put their hand up and say, I want a Wallabies jumper. So in that regard, I really do want to see a Waratahs victory.
So what's your margin? You going for a Tars home win?
By 5.
By 5. I'm going...
Be close.
Close. Yeah, I do think the Sunwolves just going to attack. They're just going to attack. They don't care what the scoreboard says. They're just going to have a go. I'm going to Waratahs by 8. But, I mean, it depends who turns up. I mean, these Waratahs, if they have a day and their opposition doesn't have a day, they are clearly more than good enough to beat anyone on an off day the way they're playing as well. So I'm going to Tars by 8. I think they're going to do pretty well with the home support by their side as well. Let's move on to our third match of the weekend. It is the Blues who are cheering just like the Waratahs about how great they are. Now they've actually won a New Zealand derby, their first win since round 1 2016 against the New Zealand side. And what did they do? What did they do against the Highlanders that they need to take into the rest of their season effectively and keep doing it to actually have a successful year where they can give themselves a chance to actually achieve something?
Well, it's like the Blues watched a video of Stone Cold Steve Austin stunning everybody and decided it's time for a new attitude era. No pun intended. It is time for a new attitude at the Blues, and it's called a winning one. And they've won their last 2, and I think that they will want this more. I really, really do. Want this more in terms of improving their performance week by week and building their confidence. Now, the Stormers will equally think that this is not a bad time to play the Blues, and they will want this win too, I believe. And again, contrasting styles. The Stormers have a quick forward pack. They have a really good backline. The Blues have a really good backline and scrappy, hard, gritty forwards. Now, a little advice for the Blues here. Play fast. That style was really good to win the game against the Highlanders with the grit. Play fast. Take them out in the first half. And, use your finishes, which they have done very well. I'm not saying that the Blues have been great in their 2 wins. They have played fair rugby. They haven't been outstanding. They've been fair. The Blues have to win international games equally as they've got to win their derby games. Or this is a really good opportunity to see where some of these players lie. Is it Oteri Black or is it Harry Plummer in that 10 jumper? Who's going to put themselves at the front of the line like Stone Cold? who's going to perform and get them the result. So the Stormers, they're going to turn up. They played pretty well against the Hurricanes. They just made a few errors towards the end there and then didn't quite get it done. But um, all in all, I hope this is a cracking game. I hope it's a close game. And I'd be saying the Blues by 2, but I'm not convinced.
The Blues, you look at the table though, and they have gone, effectively they've about stayed in the same place, but they're above the Chiefs. And they're only 3 points behind the Highlanders, who they have beaten. So, I mean, this season is far from doom and gloom and all over. Sure, to catch up for the Hurricanes and Crusaders may be a bit of a tough ask now, but still, they're still in that shout. A third-place finish in the New Zealand Conference would be a phenomenal result. Be a great result for the Blues. So
absolutely.
They've got a lot to work towards still, and they've got a lot of realistic goals they can take. The Stormers, on the other hand, I think they shocked a lot of people. A lot of people as how well they played against the Hurricanes. The Stormers are traditionally so much a side that struggles massively on tour. They never look fully committed. They never look up to the task. That changed last weekend. And they've copped a bit of, I think, unfair criticism about being a bit one-dimensional in how they play, being so forward dominant. But I think that's their style. That's how they play. And if you can't beat them there, they're going to beat you. And that's where I think they could have a big edge over the Blues. Can they get that dominance over the Blues in the forward pack, or will the Blues actually be able to stand up to that?
Well, it's a $50 million question, and finding the answer will be 80 minutes of it. I think that, as I said, the Stormers will think that this is quite a winnable game. They have actually beaten the Blues in the last 2 encounters, obliquely at Cape Town, but one was by 8 points. The other last year, I think, was 17. So they got the Blues measure the last couple of games. So they'll want to come out and win a third one in a row against them. This time it's in Auckland. Now, last year the Blues failed to win these games against the South African sides, and they only just beat the Lions in their one conference win in that conference last year. So the Blues will want to start well against the South African side. This is their third opportunity to do so, having had a poor tour of South Africa and Argentina. And some of their players will want to prove a point. More so, not just for All Black selection, but for their selection in the Blues side for years to come. And here's it's going to be a 50-50 battle. This is a game I'm really actually looking forward to putting on, and watching.
It's a big one for the Stormers too, like you talked about. They're only 1 point behind the Sharks and 4 points behind the Lions at the top of the table. So this is a turning point. They could get right up there and be actually a contender for the South African division. And I mean, you look at the overall table as well. South Africa's doing very, very well with what they've got: the Bulls, the Stormers, the Sharks, and the Lions. All 4 teams inside the top 8. I mean, that's been a while since we've seen that, and that is great for South African rugby as well. I'm going to buck the trend a bit. I'm going with the Stormers to win this one by 2. I'm going for a Stormers upset. You're going to pick your Blues to pip them?
I am, by the same margin, by 2. But if the Stormers win or the Blues win, I just hope it's a great game to watch and a really close one. And may the best team win, because I think both sides will be up for this.
Yeah, but it's what you said before, it's a 50-50, isn't it? It's going to be a good one. Hopefully it is a tight contest as well. And, this is where you win and lose. This is where you win and lose the tipping game, isn't it? You take these risks, and they're going to happen sooner or later. Moving on, second half of the weekend, it's your Reds. Your Reds are at home. They're up against the Rebels. Got their first win of the season last weekend against the Brumbies. How are they tracking?
Well, the excitement was certainly there on Sunday afternoon. I really enjoyed that performance. I think that was something that Brad Thorne installed at training. Um, Total forwards and backs dominated game against the Brumbies, who have been, to say good one week, bad the next, is probably where they're at the moment. But we'll see what happens towards the end of the season. But to win three in a row in Brisbane against the Brumbies, no big ask. And it's been done now. Um, so the Reds, where they're at the moment, they look a little more confident. They've played some good rugby. There'll be bigger tests later in the season for them. But Samu Karevi is playing some really unbelievable rugby. Young Tate McDermott has had a couple of really good weeks in the 9-jumper. There's the forward pack, of Tupou and Brendan Pangaromosa off the bench. They've played really well. So and it's good to see the young locks like Isaac Rodder, Hockings, all step up. That can only be good for Australian rugby. It can only be even better for Queensland rugby, because we need to get back to where we were once, a powerhouse. Sorry, New South Wales, it's the truth. Big test against the Rebels. The Rebels will be no doubt disappointed for blowing a game against the Lions and being, well, having a really crap second half against the Sharks, if I could say so. So they want to try and prove a point, and no bigger 2 points than Genia and Cooper playing 9 and 10 for the Melbourne Rebels instead of the Queensland Reds, which so I hope that they don't bring too many good memories for the Rebels on the Saturday night. But it'll be good to see them up there, and they've got a really good backline, probably the best in Australia in terms of their attacking class. Again, sorry to the Waratahs. I just think that the 9 and 10 combination of real class. So all in all, I see the Rebels winning this because they want to prove a point with the team they got, and they'll win it by a point. I think the Reds will turn up. They'll play really well. I think the Rebels will turn up, and South Africa might be a memory for them.
Yeah, that tour, not a good time. Not a good time for the Rebels at all, was it? The second half's just dreadful. They were there or thereabouts, but second half disaster just destroyed their tour completely. And the table, each conference is so close. It's like every game is massively important. When you look at this, so the Rebels are on 13 points, they're one behind the Waratahs at the top. But the Reds now, with that win, and because they've been losing so close as well, they picked up bonus points, they're on 10. I mean, and you look at this and you say an upset win, well, I think the Reds winning wouldn't be an upset. This is another 50-50 game that either side could take it. I've been impressed by the Reds. They just haven't seemed to have got that winning part, that final little part of it to get themselves over the line. But once they do, and like you said, they're so young, so talented, yet so many key players. Karevi's become a huge leader for that team. You've got to be pleased, like this as a rugby fan, how a guy can, what's the word, grow up, I guess, for lack of a better word, but mature into such a great leader for the Reds as well. So massive for him. But that team, I mean, they win this, poof, they could be straight to second, and a big leapfrog would be huge for them. The Rebels, though, I don't know how that's going to affect them, that tour in South Africa. It's going to be the big test is coming back and actually stepping up to that level where they could beat the Brumbies, and now winning games convincingly and looking really good about. But Genia and Cooper back in Queensland, that's going to be an interesting one as well. Are you going the Rebels to win this one? Just 1 point, was it?
Just a point, but it might be the point that needs to be proven. I will be, as you know, I'm very proud. And if we go down fighting, I
Mm.
really couldn't care. It really it means a lot to Queensland rugby fans like myself if we have a go. And you know what? This is actually my favourite Australian derby. Um, this has resulted in fight night, literally, as it had 2 years ago, where Quade Cooper, then a Red, got into a scuffle with Rebels on the sideline. So this is a fiery clash. This is a really good clash. Um, and, you know, I just think the Rebels will just have enough there. Just.
It's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be very interesting. I've gone for the Rebels as well, by 4. I don't know why. But you're right. I think most rugby fans that support a team don't mind if they lose, but they just want to have that intensity or that passion in the team, don't they? And just to show a good performance, win, lose or draw, something you can be proud of your team by. And I think the Reds certainly 150% have shown that this season, and I think one of the best teams of it. Maybe up there with the Sunwolves as well, as teams that are giving all they've got. Moving on to our penultimate match of the weekend, the Sharks versus the Bulls over to Africa. And it was only in round 4 that these two sides met for the first time. And the Bulls actually took that one out 27 points to 14. The Sharks, they've only beaten the Bulls once in their last 10 meetings. Interesting stats. I was surprised at that one just as much as I was at the stats earlier on. The Bulls coming off that pasting by the Chiefs. Who saw that coming? It's an interesting place in Africa. I hate picking matches in South Africa. It is a disaster. A team that's never beaten the other, but they've just got smashed by a team that has lost their opening, or have not won in their opening 5 games. It makes for an interesting matchup, doesn't it?
Well, Steve, I looked in front of this camera as I am now a few weeks ago, and I said that this was the game of the round, and I was really excited about it. How wrong I was. Um, the Bulls slammed an exclamation mark on the Sharks. This is hard to tip. It is in Durban, so it'll be in the Sharks element now in terms of their crowd and the way they're going to play rugby. So home games are a real thing that you got to win, particularly against a side like the Bulls that have showed a lot of potential. Last week they were ordinary. Ordinary is probably ordinary. They were ordinary. It wasn't good to watch. It was excellent if you're a Chiefs fan. But look, the Bulls, I guess you could say when there's a derby after a game where you've played an international side, you will want then to bounce back and prove a point against one of your fiercest rivals. This match doesn't just have history from Super Rugby. It has history from the Curry Cup years, which is a prestigious rugby tournament. And I mentioned that a few weeks ago. I'm going to go with the Sharks. I think that they're coming off a win. The Bulls coming off a very demoralising loss. They're at home at Durban. I'm going to say by 7. I think that I really enjoy watching the Sharks play. They've got this really hard-working forward pack. They've got some wonderful backs. The Bulls have the same, but I just think that this time being a home derby for the Sharks is probably what's going to put it in their favour. They want to continue on. The Bulls will just want to they'll want to show some improvement from last week.
It's a close one on the table here too. The teams have the same record. They've both got 3 wins, 2 losses. It's bonus points that's putting the Sharks up, having 2 extra bonus points, obviously, over the Bulls, who are on 13 points, Sharks 15. Stormers sandwiched in the middle on 14. How tight's that? You can't nothing is going to separate that. You can't look at the table and go, wow, that team's far superior by that positioning. That's what's making Super Rugby so hard to pick this season, and I'm in agreement with you. Home ground advantage is a big key, and that's pretty much influenced my pick as well. The Bulls will want to bounce back, though. That thrashing to the Chiefs will not be going down well with them at all. They will not be pleased, and they are a fierce side. A fierce side. If they get angry, if they get things a bit going their way, they could be a very, very hard team to stop. But I like the Sharks, much like you. I like how the electricness of their backline, the creativity, the power that they've got, as South African teams do, but they've just got X factor in that side, which is exciting to watch. And going for a home team win, I'm going the Sharks. I thought you were going to ruin my picks here and pick the same, but I'm going Sharks by just 6. So 1 point difference between us, but should be like another good game, another interesting game, another hard to pick game, which we've seen a lot throughout this round of Super Rugby. We've got 1 game left to go. And I mean, I wrote question marks all over this one for my pick because I was just, I'm out of ideas. The Jaguars back from the bye. They're up against the Chiefs, who we've kind of talked about a little bit already, just thrashed the Bulls. And I mean, I think that was the most surprising result I've seen this season. A team so poor going to South Africa and then putting 50 on a team like the Bulls is just phenomenal. The Jaguars, though, at home, always going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, they are. But having said that, and if I'm brutally honest here, a win changes everything. Whether it's a win against any opponent. And how refreshing is it to see Mackenzie back in 15 and doing what Mackenzie does at 15 very, very well. Making line breaks, seeing the Chiefs play the angle style of the pitch running game, which hadn't been seen until the game beforehand when they had played the Hurricanes. So they've obviously got their tactical side back a bit. They're going to have to play that game against the Waratahs. The Waratahs love playing at home. It doesn't matter who they're playing, they will turn up. They will be very physical. They will make things mentally tough for you, particularly at scrum time and set pieces time. This game had me pulling my hair out, and I don't have much hair last year. The Warriors won, and won convincingly, and really, it was just a late try from the Chiefs that got them the bonus point after the siren. The Warriors know how to beat the Chiefs. It'll be up to the Chiefs now to go to Argentina and pick up some more valuable points and continue this rebuild of their season. So, here's the thing. The Chiefs have to, as I've mentioned, with what the Blues have to do with the Stormers, the Chiefs have to play quick, like they did in Pretoria, like they did against the Hurricanes the week before that. They've got to play their game, and they can't just allow the Warriors to put a psychological advantage on with the crowd, the big crowds they have there, and the way they play rugby. They've just got to be just as physical, and they've got to the ball. In other words, Steve, the ball is in the Chiefs' court. It's not in the Warriors' court, because they will know what they have to do here, and the Chiefs are just going to have to perform like they did in the last couple of weeks. It has been better, but they've got a mile to go.
You talked a bit about Damian McKenzie. He's key for me, and I've always go back years, watch old videos, 2000 and whatever year he's burst onto the scene. They want to play him at 10. I've always said he's better at fullback because he's got the time and he can pick the lines he wants to run. If you're a 10, you get first receiver ball. You're either the first on the left, you're the first on the right of the ruck, and you've got to take on whichever the defender's there. A 10 never runs sideways to pick his line. McKenzie at fullback can run sideways to pick his line. He can inject at whatever point he can. Oh, someone's broken a tackle. Now I can create an overlap. He's got that. He's got that smarts. Like, don't take away he's not a good player because he can't play 10. He's just got the skill set like Israel Folau does, and I think this is why I'm always a big fan of him at fullback over the wing. Yes, he can take a high ball, and okay, he can take more high balls on the wing, but Mackenzie, like Folau, can enter the line, and Folau breaks tackles as well. He takes high balls. Mackenzie splits defensive lines, and if he can spot a prop and a lock sitting side by side in the back line, you can guarantee your bottom dollar he's going to nail that, and a little short ball, bang, he goes through. Space is created. It's just that time. And that's what makes a really good fullback. You look at the best of them. I mean, Ben Smith's another one. The way he injects himself and creates the space by how he does it. That's just what makes him so good. A good fly half can do that, but they're generally a general. They play others outside them. They don't need to create that space with their running because they create it with their ball playing of guys around them and outside them. You look at Dan Carter, guys like them. Yeah, good runner, but he was never a space splitter like a Mackenzie sort of player is. So that's where I come from, man. That's what I've always thought and always liked him at fullback. And you can tell, like talked about, first game back, made a massive difference as well for the Chiefs. He's key. Eli Marlowe's the other one who I think is key for the Chiefs. He makes big danger on the wing, and he's a try-scoring machine. So he's got to be key for them. But like talk about, they've got to muscle it up front and speed of the ball. That's what they've got to do. They've got to outrun that pack, outmaneuver that pack from the Jaguares, and find those mismatches, because the Jaguares are going to run at them. I mean, they've got speedsters, they've got lightning quick X-Factor players as well, so you can't discount that. But like you say, I agree with you 100%. The Jaguares are going to bring, we know what they're going to bring. They're going to bring that same sort of style. The Chiefs, they have to bring something better. They have to bring last week and not last month. That's going to be the big decisive thing in this game for me, for them. I'm going to, after much deliberation about this, back the away team. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm going with the Chiefs, but only by a point. I think they just got to. It's not going to be any easier than playing, say, the Crusaders or anything like this. This is a test for the Chiefs, if anything. I really enjoy watching this side play when they are on song. They play a style of rugby that I like to watch, so I expect to see them play that style of rugby on Sunday morning. I'm going the Chiefs, but only by a point. I think that the Jaguares will turn up. They will make life very difficult. It'll be up to the Chiefs to outmaneuver them.
It's going to be an interesting game. Very, very interesting game. And another one that could really go either way. I'm the Chiefs by just 2. So I've gone very, very close, very, very tight. And they've got to make the most of those guys. Key guys into areas, backs creating space, and they just don't seem to have that space when they've got Mackenzie and 10. So that's a massive key. Of course, we don't have this team just yet. We've only got those first couple. But that's massive. He's got to be at 15. And, of course, they are resting Retallick this week as well, which is another point I was going to make. He's played his 6 games in a row or whatever, so he's got to have a rest. So a lot of going on with that as well with these New Zealand sides. But they can win it. I think they've got the muscle up front, but he's going to be a big loss for that Chiefs side by a whisker. But that is us, though. We are done for round 7. An interesting round of rugby ahead. I hope we do go well with our picks this week. I need it. I need more good picks. Thanks for joining me, Shane, though. Good to have another chat about rugby. We'll be back again together on Monday on Paul's channel on the Driving More for the review of the weekend as well. So if you want to check that out, go see Paul's channel as well for Monday night action. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, Shane, and have a bit of a chit-chat about the rugby over the weekend, where do they find you?
First and foremost, I hope our tips work this weekend, because we're going to have to back it up on Monday to tell that. But I'm at Schoolham8, SCOOLM8 on Twitter, and come and have a yarn.
As always, it'll be on the screen. You can go check him out and say hi as well. But until next week and until Monday as well, if you think we've done really poorly, come and abuse us in the comments. It's always good to have that chat as well. We'll see you all next week for another round of Super Rugby. Who the guest's going to be, I don't know. You'll find out then. But until then, as always, take care.